Hi guys, and welcome to the video of my Leaguestart for the 325 Legacy of Phrecia event. I'm gonna be playing Herald of Agony Herald. Before we start, the POB and timestamps are in the video description, so if you're only here for the POB, or if you need anything specific, just go there and hop wherever you want. First point, why am I playing Herald of Agony? It's a decent build. It's not the best League starter, but it's decent and it's off meta. I've only seen 2 other POBs, I think, and I didn't like both of them too much. It has actually decent progression. It starts off a bit slow, especially because I'm doing a heist start, which means I'm going to be sitting in heist for roughly 2 hours on Leaguestart. But after you've done that, after you've gotten your initial setup together and roughly hit level 80, you're going to be cruising through the Atlas on roughly 3 to 4 million DPS without any gear, basically. It's a decent all-rounder. For early T17s, it's pretty sure not the best build. It's a bit too squishy, especially since the nerf they put in yesterday, which I'm going to be talking about. But it's decent for T16 mapping, it's decent for early mapping, for early delving. It's good, I think, for Sanctum even. Gonna have to try that out, because the damage is so high on an early setup, you can go for high tier Sanctums pretty early. And it's chill gameplay overall. Everything's automated. You only have to press Storm Rain, basically. Other than that, all curses, everything is automated. Right, first point I'm gonna be talking about is actually scaling Herald of Agony, because it is a minion build, but it does not scale like any other minion build. Normally minion builds go 12 passive cluster jewels and stack some of those and spec all of the nodes for a big attack speed and big damage increase. However, Herald of Agony is completely different in this regard. Herald of Agony uses Virulence to buff itself with increased attack speed, increased physical damage per Virulence stack, and flat physical damage per Virulence. And these stacks are additive with any minion damage you have on your tree, gear, or anything else. Like if you get 4% increased 4% increased attack speed on your tree, the Agony Crawler is just gonna have like 1 additional Virulence stack worth of attack speed, which is basically nothing. So scaling any minion damage, any attack speed, or any flat damage via like auras or anything is completely useless on this build, which means we're only gonna scale 2 things basically. We're gonna scale maximum virulence, which buffs everything, and we're gonna scale gem level, which is gonna increase the scaling of the virulence. We're gonna take a look on the wiki here, on the leveling table. We can see the Agony Crawler starts out with getting 5% fist damage per virulence, 2% attack speed, and 1 to 3 fist damage. But in the end game, we're actually gonna be sitting on, I think, level 38. And especially this attack speed increase, like 6% on level 29 is a big one, or 21 as well. And the physical damage increase breakpoints to like 12% on 34 or 28 to 11% are big spikes in DPS. The flat fizz is pretty linear, so no breakpoints there. But since this scales off of each other, getting gem levels is very, very important on this build, which you're gonna see in the build later on. To the POB of the build, I wanted to show how it looks while playing a bit. In general, you're pressing Storm Rain or Rain of Arrows to apply Virulence stacks, which get 1 stack per enemy you poison. Then the Agony Crawler spawns and kills stuff. This is on a 4-link setup of level 12 gem, so a bit underleveled for this zone even. And I don't have a golden rule currently, so my Virulence stacks are a bit low. But as you can see, even on low amounts of targets, we're basically having 40 Virulence all of the time. And the Herald of Agony Crawler is just attacking, killing everything in 1 hit. He hits basically. Yeah, this is basically the gameplay early on. As you can see, the attack speed is not too high of him, since we're only having 40 Virulence stacks. This is without any cluster tool and without the Ascendancy. With the Ascendancy, you're gonna have baseline 65 Virulence, which is already like 6% attack speed increase compared to this, which is gonna make the clear feel a lot better. But other than that, you're just basically spamming Storm Rain We have Giga Sustain because of all of the life per hit. So you can really face tank here. I don't have anything equipped. And my tree is an Ignite tree from an old character. So yeah, this is basically what the gameplay will look like. Alright, let's take a look at the Ascendancy of the Herald, which is a witch. There's actually not a lot of flexibility here, especially since they nerfed it yesterday to the Damnation node, which I will go over in a bit. But the first thing we get is Coming Calamity. The auras are disabled and 200% increased mana restoration of Herald skills. This means we don't have to run the Circle of Nostalgia rings anymore for mana reservation of Herald of Agony. We can use rare rings or unique rings. And with this 200%, we can roughly fit a 6-link Herald of Agony, plus an aspect and Arctic Armor, which is going to be what I'm going to be doing. For the second node, there are two choices for us basically. There is either the choice of the Future Nostalgia, which gives 75% chaos resistance while affected by Herald of Agony and doubles the buff effect, or 100% increased. Or the Herald of Purity buff effect, which gives you 15 PDR, which is also pretty strong early. The downside of this node is that you can't use the small cluster anymore for Herald of Agony, which loses you a 25% more damage multiplier for the Herald of Agony, which is why I'm not going to be running this, but I'm going to be running the Future Nostalgia node, which also helps with keeping up with the self-poison from Golden Rule. Next node, obvious, basically the reason why we're picking Herald is this node, Scourge, 25% at 25 to maximum virulence, is roughly 80% damage on setup, depends a bit on gem level. The 66% increased damage, minion damage, while affected by Herald is good in early game, but is completely useless in late game because of the Herald of Agony scaling I talked about earlier. And for the last node, there are two choices. It's either Apocalypse for +3 levels, which is very strong early, or Damnation, which got changed from the additional damage reduction from the ED effect basically to the new one, to this one. It now grants 20% reduced damage taken of the element if you have been hit recently, which is in the last 4 seconds, and 20% recoup of elemental stuff. This is a bit weird. It's a lot worse than this node, since it's conditional and it's lower value, which means to fully get basically the same value as you got before, you need to go endurance charges and spec this, but then you're only getting half you're getting basically 5 endurance charges worth of damage reduction from this, which I don't think will be worth it compared to the +3 levels in the end. So currently on all POBs I have spec this +3 now and have dropped the Damnation. But depending on tankiness or how it's going, could be that you play around with this while playing. Alright, let's dive into the POB. For the POB, there are 2 different variants of the build, which I'm going to be going over. Plus there's a leveling section, which only has the leveling stuff after the first lab, which I'm going to be talking about a little bit later. But use the Loadouts feature if you want to change anything. There are a lot of trees, a lot of stuff for different gear sets and gear levels. I will go over later a bit. But for now, let's start with the gem length. In general, let's start with the endgame version. In general, we're going to be running 6-link Herald of Agony, of course. With a rare bow, you're going to be running it in your bow. With a unique bow, you're going to be running it in your chest. We have Herald of Agony, and the only actually required link for Herald of Agony is Pierce. For the setups without a rare bow, I'm running the Lioness Vision chest to effectively give me a 7-link for my Herald of Agony, which has 3 Pierce. So if you don't see it on the setups here, or if it's disabled, this means it's going the Pierce from the chest. The other gems, awaken minion, minion damage, void manipulation, vicious projectiles, and then withering touch. Maybe if you don't have an empower. If you have an empower, you run an empower. For the trigger, so basically for the virulence stack of the build, I'm running Stormrain with fast attacks, with GMP, and with chance to poison. With this plus the Herald effect, we are at 100% chance to poison without any tattoos or anything for the Stormrain. Important thing here, chance to poison always has to be level 1. The 40% chance is always the same, only the damage gets higher. And since we are self-poisoning, like you see here, single poison DPS 3.7, we have 100 stacks of this, so we're getting 370 damage, chaos damage per second, which is then reduced to 1/4 with our chaos resistance, so like 80 damage per second, which is nothing. So make sure the chance to poison is low level. Then life gain on hit, which is gonna give us incredible sustain. You'll basically always be full life on this build, or dead. And then Withering Touch for the Wither on hit. With this and all of the hits from Stormrain, you should be easily able to sustain 15 Wither stacks, especially if you already also have Withering Touch on your Herald of Agony, which is going to give you like an average of 3 to 4 stacks as well, giving you a bit better uptime. But yeah, this alone should sustain 15 Wither stacks. Next of all, my Mark on Hit setup. I have Sniper's Mark, Mark on Hit, then my Arctic Armor, and a Frostplank for movement. And then I'm running currently 2 Mana Forged Arrow trigger setups for Curse and for some buffs. First is Mana Forged Arrow Mirror Arrow and Ensnaring Arrow. Ensnaring Arrow gives increased damage taken from projectile attack hits. And since my build is nearly fully hit based, with just getting some poison DPS on the side, this is basically like Sniper's Mark. It's 6% overall DPS, it's pretty good. And then Feeding Frenzy is procced from the Mirror Arrow clone attacking, and Feeding Frenzy is also 10% more damage. Then the second Mana Forged Arrow setup, which is optional depending on if you want to self-cast your curse or not. There are other utility setups, which I can show you afterwards. But here I'm running Mana Forged Arrow with Rain of Arrows of Saturation to get more hits. And then Hex Touch plus your curse, which is either Despair if you're already full Chaos Convert, or Vulnerability if you're still full physical, 60% physical, since Herald of Agony has 40% conversion built in. So yeah, this is if you want to automate your curse. And then I'm running Herald Aspect of the Crab from a helmet, or from anywhere on your gear basically. And then I'm running an Unset Ring with a Blink Arrow. If you're not running the Despair Hex Touch setup, you can run your Blink Arrow in your helmet, and I think I have it. I think I have here. This is like a utility setup you can do instead of the Rain of Arrow setup, where you have Convocation if you want to use that with automation, and then self-cast your curse, and then you have either Steel Skin on automation as well, or later on maybe Molten Shell, and or Blink Arrow if you don't want to use any guard skill. So this is, you gotta have to experiment on your own, see if you need the Convocation. I'm also not sure, I haven't played Herald of Agony in a long time, so if you're gonna need the Convocation for, let's say, procs bubbles or whatever, I'm gonna be dropping the curse and hit the second curse automation, I think, and then manually cursing. Yeah, gonna see how that goes. Next, let's talk about the Golden Rule. The Golden Rule is a jewel that reflects poisons on you and bleeding. There's 2 points to this. First, let's talk about the bleeding part. If you're still running Vulnerability, you're gonna be self-bleeding. And since you're gonna be self-bleeding with like 0 physical damage, only the base damage of your bow, it's gonna do no damage anyways. You have 18 bleed DPS, doesn't matter. We're still gonna be running the sorry, how's it called? The Rala Cache on later setups anyways. But you can actually abuse this. Since you get 40% increased armor while bleeding, on later setups without vulnerability, you can run a single attacks have a chance to 5% to cause bleeding. This alone should give you 40% increased armor for just a 1 to 2 investment, which is very good. But the second part, the most important part, is the poison reflection. Since Herald of Agony gains virulence stacks when you apply a poison, reflecting this poison onto you is gonna give you 2 virulence stacks every time you inflict a poison. The jewel is technically not needed. I think you can sustain your virulence even up to 137, which is the maximum we're gonna get in this build without this. However, it's gonna increase your ramp time on single target by double. It's gonna make moving during boss fights a lot better. Where you have to dodge, or also doing mapping, anything you have to dodge, you're gonna get the stacks up double as fast again. And the big part also is the 1% chaos resistance per poison on you. Since this poison does no damage, like I mentioned earlier, roughly like 100 damage per second, this is gonna chaos cap you without any chaos resist on your gear together with the Ascendancy. Because we have the 75 chaos resistance from here, and we have the 100 poison stacks on us with 50% chaos overcapped, which means you don't have to worry about chaos resistance at all in this build, even from an early stage. Alright, next point to talk about is which version you want to go for. As you saw before, if you take a look at the Giga Endgame comparisons, with a rare bow, you're sitting at 150 million DPS nearly, with roughly 100k max hits, good fizz max hits, with 5 endurance charges, and in all of the configurations I've ticked 5 crab barriers, so not maximum, with a good life pool. And the block version, and you also, on this version, if you have the Mage Blood, you get quite a bit of evasion rating as well. 67% evasion is pretty good for attack mitigation. The block version is, without Mage Blood, is a lot cheaper. You are still spell suppression capped, but you have no evasion. But instead of evasion, you have 75 attack and spell block, since you're running a Witherhail with a rear guard. Yeah, you have a lot lower damage, 66 million. But this setup is quite a bit cheaper, and it has more early mitigation, since you can block cap basically after acts. Yeah, the progression for both, the block version actually has a bit worse progression. You do get your Lioness Vision pretty early. With a 4 link, this is basically a pseudo 5 link, which you can then run. However, you need the Witherhail, depending on how expensive that's gonna be. Should cost maybe a bit, especially since you need either the chest or the bow to be 6 linked, which is gonna cost roughly 3 to 4 divines in early. So a bit more expensive to get a 6 link up and going. Or for the rare version, you are running a rare bow, or in this case a blue bow, which you're just gonna alt spam for +1 gems. And this is gotten from the Pokebank cards, which should cost no more than 40 chaos or something for a 6 link with the best base, a short bow. So this is a very, very strong early option to get a 6 link and early power. Okay, let's talk about another thing that is the same on both builds, depending on which way you're gonna decide to go, is how to handle the mana costs of this build. Since we're gonna be attacking quite a bit, especially with a Quill Rain early on, 5 attacks per second with 24 or 23 mana costs, 120 mana per second without clarity, without any mana reductions on tree. I'm gonna be handling this by running Thief's Torment in the early game, which is giving you 30 mana per enemy hit with attacks, which should easily be able to sustain, like you saw in the gameplay footage beforehand. This was no mana regeneration, no anything, with just a Thief's Torment equipped for mana on hit. This will easily cap you for mana all of the time. And the ring has decent elemental resists, and it has good life per hit before your life per hit gem is actually leveled. So I'm gonna be looking to get this during acts already, to sustain my casting without a mana flask. So yeah. For the later versions, so basically after you swap rings, you're gonna want to swap to double rare ring with 2 Elrion crafts. Before, basically the time when you want to swap is after you can either buy yourself the service from another player for the Elrion craft, or you have it yourself unlocked. which could take a bit more time without the Atlas tree. But you need 2 of these crafts. Like you see here, the mana cost is down to 11, and then you need 1 or 2 mana per enemy hit jewels on the tree. I think going 2 is a bit better, especially if you're running an early 6-link setup, but I'm gonna have to experiment around a bit on how much you actually need. In packs, it shouldn't be that much of an issue anyways. On single target, gonna have to see if you need 2 or if 1 is enough. Yeah, just want to talk about how the mana system here. Alrighty, let's get into the first setup, which is gonna be the same for the rare bow version and for the block version. It's gonna be the initial level 70 bow starter setup. Since I mentioned earlier that I'm gonna be doing Heist, I will get a lot of these uniques before actually really playing the game. Especially the Quill Rain, which is important, and the Lioness Vision for the 5-link are very important. Then I have a Harry's Bite, since quivers on this build basically don't do anything, you only have utility quivers. You can either run the Harry's Bite early, which should be 1k or lower for a lot of solving your dex issues and strength issues early on. Has good attack speed, has 10 life per hit, it's a decent quiver early on. Or you can run the rear guard for some block chance. However, you don't have the Widow Hail yet to really take advantage of this rear guard. So personally, I think I'm going to be running the Harry's Bite to fix the dex issues early on, so I don't have to spec all of the dex nodes on the tree. Yes, then Rainbow Strides, just a setup for the block version already. Gonna be using those up until the end game on the block version. Use Torment, like I mentioned earlier, for mana sustain and for life gain on hit. If you have, as long as you have this ring, you can also drop the life gain on hit here and run faster attacks already to have a bit more attack speed, especially if you swap to the Widow Hail with rearguard. But this is for the gear. For the tree, this is I think a 20-point respec from my last leveling version. Yeah. Should be nearly no difference to the leveling. You're basically pathing for some strength and then mostly life nodes, getting the dex strength everywhere where it's convenient, some resistance, and then life, getting +1 curse decently early. Yeah, life pathing. Soul of Steel is pretty good. Early armor, early phase reduction is very good. You can see here with the Lioness chest, which has very good armor and no flasks, sitting at 8k armor, which is a lot in early game after acts. This is basically gonna make you invulnerable to physical damage in T1 maps or something. And yeah, it's pretty. We still have some minion damage nodes spec'd, especially the onslaught on kill here, and then the mastery for some accuracy, and the spiritual command to help you with early attack speeds for keeping up the virulence stacks. Okay, after the starter setup, I'm gonna go over the block setup now until the end game and some changes for it. Alright, as you can see, first level 85 setup already has triple cluster jewel and 6 mediums, so we're running a ton of jewels very early into the build. Why is that? Because of this notable Pure Agony. As you can see, 12.4 DPS per notable, which is basically all of the damage. How I'm gonna do that? Because of going the Heist Start, and you can run, because I'm going the Heist Start, I'm gonna be crafting those myself early on. For large clusters, as you can see, I've put in 8 passive larges without any notables. And even the minion damage, as you can see, 0.7% DPS is not that important. So if 8 passive minions are for some reason giga expensive, just run any other large cluster jewel. It does not matter. For crafting these, basically no mods with just Pure Agony, you're gonna be alt spamming them. You need a 68 base. With only Pure Agony, you're talking 25 alts on average, which is below 10 chaos on average. So this should be no problem of getting either 4 or 6, depending on how early you want to fit 3 clusters, right after your Heist start. And since we're starting Heist, there should already be some cluster tools on the market with item level 68. Since it's kind of delaying basically our mapping start for quite a bit. So people can go a bit higher level and already drop some of those for us. The mediums, I think there are two different ones with you have damage while you're affected by Herald and minion damage while affected by Herald. Make sure you buy the minion damage ones. Not sure if the other ones can even roll the pure agony, but yeah, make sure you buy the correct ones. And then for small clusters, since this is the block version, I'm running one block tool. You can either run this, or you can run a replica reckless defense, but I don't think any of those will be on the market. So just grabbing any spell block small cluster with either 4 or 6 spell block should be enough. Second skin is the best one because it already gives you 30% increased armor. As you can see, 85 setup with 15k armor without flasks is pretty good. If you have a good granite, talking 23k armor, which is actually very, very good physical damage mitigation early on. Yeah, other than that, the tree is not really that insane. I'm getting the +2 endurance charges here. And you need to get yourself the enduring composure. This maybe is expensive. I actually haven't checked the crafting of this yet, but I'm pretty sure you could just alt spam this as well. It shouldn't cost more than 20k or whatever, and which you're gonna have at this point in the game anyways. Still manually pathing to Whispers of Doom. And yeah, if you're going over the gear, since this is the block version, we're going Widow Hail. I would say for the value, since you're running your Stormrain setup in the bow, which is not that important to be 6 linked, just grabbing like a 230% roughly, and then 5 linking it yourself. 4 or 5 linking, 5 would be a bit better. Should be the best. Then the rear guard, good thing to maybe look out for on the rear guard for the poison, since a normal rear guard has physical damage with bow attacks as an implicit. You could be maybe killing yourself with Golden Rule if you are running it at this point. So if you grab any corrupted rear guard with perfect spell damage block, this is basically the only 2 stats that matter, the corruption and the spell block. This will then block cap you with the one small cluster that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, running the Lioness Vision. We're on a 5 link on this point. So this is nearly 7 million DPS on single target with stacked Wither on a 5 link. Which is pseudo 6 link with this chest. For the helmet, basically I'm gonna grab an aspect of the crab beast early on and gonna slap it on any piece of gear. I put it on the helmet here because I think the helmet is the gear piece you will be keeping for the longest. You're only looking for a +1 minion and then resistance or a good life roll, or if you don't have a life roll, just craft on life. So aspect of the crab on helmet and +1 minion on helmet. For gloves, a lot of dexterity is important, and then a big life roll, and then crafted attack speed. Attack speed in gloves is especially important on this setup, since no Quill Rain and no Reabo means very low attack speed on the Widow Hail itself. It's only 2 attacks per second. So could be a bit spicy with the poison stacks, but should hopefully be fine. And if you're gonna get any implicit, I think the most important one should be gloves here. Intimidate on hit, which is just a bit of a DPS increase. I didn't even tick it here. It would be 300% more damage, 300k ink. Yeah, then Rainbow Stride, like I mentioned earlier, will be the staple for the end game until the end game. Amulet, you're looking for attributes. It would be maybe best to get whatever the amulet base is for strength and dex. Don't really need any int. And then either +1 all, +1 fizz, or +1 chaos, since those are the attacks for Herald of Agony. And then for rings, we're looking at life roll, dexterity, and 1 resistance with an open prefix to craft the mana cost reductions. Belt, very easy belt, basically just life and resistances. This belt may look a bit good actually for 85, however, I have no resist on my helmet and no resist on my gloves, so I think you should be fine with resists either way. This build is not hard to resist cap on in any way. Yeah, for flasks, I think for all setups, I try to run a granite at least, then quicksilver silver to get some move speed. So with those up 80%, with those down a bit slow, plus 15 only, but what can you do? It's a minion build. Have to wait for the Agony Crawler anyways. Yeah, last flask, quartz flask for phasing, since you're gonna be running in front quite a bit, or maybe a jade flask. Gonna have to see, pretty much play what you get at this point. Yeah, also life flask with CB immune, very good early on, but yeah, just basic stuff. And then the other unique that you may want to buy depending on price, I can't say how expensive this will be. I think at level 85 you're probably gonna have this, is the Calamitrous Visions small cluster. Of course without the corruption, I didn't add any thought. So just a normal one, this is gonna give you 25% more damage, and it's gonna give you 25 more poison chance, which is also important to cap your poison chance on your Stormrain setup. Okay, upgrading this setup then to the next one, an 84, as you can read, it's already a voices setup. 94, I think people should, this is like, I don't know, day 2 sometime, end of day 2. There should be some voices on the market, even if it's only 7 passive voices. I think I will still run 7 passives if the 5 passives are too expensive. But this should not be too expensive. But yeah, you're running triple voices, you're cutting the rest side and then anointing Whispers of Doom, since this is a bit more efficient pathing. Yeah, gonna be going down here. Get the 3 voices, still run 1 Enduring Compose, we're still running the Low Messenger, and then we're just gonna run mediums, still with no mods, with only pure Agony. If you have 2 mods, you still only spec one side. For Jewels, you can start running Ghastly Eye Jewels with life and poison chance. Poison chance is just, you take it, you don't scale it in any way, it's just a bit more DPS on single target especially. Yeah, and that I have mostly those I think here. One replica defense. You can only run the replica version if you are ailment immune. If you're not ailment immune, you need to run the normal one, which makes you get crit a bit more. I don't know, I would only run this in any way with the replica version, and if you're already ailment immune from Storm Shroud. So yeah, either drop this and just be a bit undercapped of spell block, or still just run the small cluster. And anyway, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, not too many changes. Just make sure, like you see here, you still always need this 2 mana per enemy hit jewel, otherwise you can't sustain your mana. Best even 2, like I have here, 2 in this setup. Yeah, for skill gems, we're gonna go on the 6 link setup here with an Empower already. If you don't have an Empower, I think there is some okay. I think we're gonna run Maim, I think, if you don't run Empower. Other ones are not too good. Hypothermia you can't run. No, Withering Touch. So you're gonna be running Withering Touch if you don't have the Empower. But the Empower should be a bit better. Return Proc. If you're gonna be removing this, you need to adapt it in your config. 30%, 39% more damage is from the Return Proc. However, Return Proc has the highest reservation of these support gems, which makes it a bit tricky maybe with the mana pool. Only 65 free. And you're spending 19, so you can only have 3 shots missing before your Didn't like that too much, so I think I'm gonna be running Withering Touch over the Return Proc anyways. So yeah. Okay, next change to level 97. It's basically Oh, sorry, we didn't mention the DPS. As you can see here, as soon as you get the voices set up with a bunch of clusters and on the 6 link, the DPS is just gonna skyrocket. Like 37 million, and this setup is not expensive at all. These voices are gonna be costing, I don't know, 1 diff or lower. And all of the gear, 6 link, you're talking maybe with the replicate Dragon Fang, depending on the price, talking maybe 10 divines or something on this gear level. So without the Stormshot could be a bit expensive. But yeah, it's like 10D for 35 mil or something DPS is pretty crazy. Yes, next is swapping to Suppression and getting Awakened Gems. Especially like Awakened minion damage is not very expensive. Awakened Vicious Approach also not. And especially level 5 minion gems which gets +1 to level. Very good. Level 4 Empower, obvious, big upgrade. And then just getting some corruptions, like a +1/+2 on the chest plate is gonna give you big damage as well. Getting a rear guard with a corruption for spell suppression could be a bit expensive / hard to get one with good rolls here. If you're not suppression capped, so if you get only an 8% roll with this, you might want to take the chance to suppress as lucky early on this wheel, depending on how your suppression is gonna look. So if you can't cap it, just click the lucky suppress, and you don't need as much on gear as well. Yeah, upgrade the helmet. I didn't make a medium endgame helmet. This is pretty endgame already. Yeah, spell suppression helmet and +2 skill gems is basically what you want. An open suffix for the aspect craft, still gonna be running that. Then yeah, life 1 resist roll maybe. Then implicits, fist conversion, and just any max res, like max lightning on the helmet. For gloves, yeah, gonna be running suppress on implicit and suppress on explicit. Big dex roll on gloves, always important. And then yeah, still crafted attack speed. And big life roll, still have the intimidate. The rainbow strats, try to get one with corrupted, 1 endurance. This should not be expensive. The boots are basically free. I think you could even corrupt this yourself if you take some time. For the amulet, yeah, taking replica Dragon Fang. Hopefully not too expensive early on. We're gonna see. It's a good item. Other than that, you could be running Ashes. So on this gear level already, since we have level 36 Herald of Agony already at this point, the gem level doesn't give us over the next breakpoint, which is at 33, the last one. So running Ashes actually is the better choice here. Should have actually swapped this here. So yeah, running in Ashes gets you 30 quality, and 30 quality on Herald of Agony is more virulent and also helps the support setups with 1 more beam on the Storm Rain and a few things on the other gems. So this is a pretty good item swap. You can run either of those amulets, and if you don't have any of them, just keep running the +1 gems. It's still okay. It might feel like a bit of a waste to Anoint Whispers of Doom. So you could repath this and grab it, and then add Grave Pact, which is the second best Anoint. But yeah. And at this point, one big change as well, Forbidden Flames. Yeah, these most likely are gonna cost quite a bit. But minions have Unholy Might. Very good gem. With this, you don't have to run the shitty conversion gloves thingy that no one wants to run, especially not on a deck staff build. So I don't have the conversion gloves on any build. I'm just gonna run physical with 40% conversion before getting the Forbidden Flames set. It's roughly 20 to 25% increased DPS, since you then swap the Curse to Despair, and you get more value out of your Wither stack scaling. So yeah, this is a pretty late game upgrade, but you're gonna find this in every late game version of the POB. And then yeah, in fully end game, not too much changes here. I'm pretty sure I'm just gonna be looking for a +4 on the chest. Gotta be looking to perfect your rear guard if you don't have a good spell suppression roll. A better Widow Hail, most likely like nearly have 250% at this point to maybe balance out a bit, having a bit low spell block. Maybe if you get a 250%, you can drop the one replica Reckless Defense I have in here to cap the spell block. Don't know. Then also, yeah, getting a Progenesis for late game. Tankiness in maps, very, very strong. Yeah, other than that, not much changes. Small upgrades to the rings. Getting a Stygian, also a good upgrade. Hunter Stygian with percent life, big life roll, just one resist. Should be decently doable. Should not cost more than I think 5 div or whatever, which at level 100 shouldn't be a big issue anyways. Yeah, I think this was it for the block. Maybe the Adorned setup. Yeah, fully endgame, swapping to Adorned, or getting more poison chance for your minion. You have to only run triple, or you have to run 4 poison jewels to get 100, or triple to get 90% poison chance. Gives you basically half your DPS as poison, just as an extra side note, which is especially now strong with the Forbidden set, and you're going full chaos anyways, and having the Despair, so the poison does a lot more damage as well. But yeah, this not that important. You could just run the same stuff as rare jewels as well without an Adorned. Yeah, not a big deal. Alright, that's what all of the block setups. Let's take a look at the rare bow setups. What you're gonna notice early on, rare bow, I would say a lot more squishy, because you don't have the spell block, you're not suppression capped, you don't have any suppression, and yeah, and you don't have really any plus LUS. So your max hit is gonna be very, very low early on this. Fizz should still be fine, but the setup is gonna have the opportunity to scale for more damage a lot more quickly, as you're gonna be seeing. So yeah, the big advantage of the rare setup is this bow, basically. You're gonna have the Porcupine cards, which are gonna give you a 6-link at level 50 short bow. And with this short bow, you just alt spam it for +1 gems, then Regal it, and then craft on attack speed. And with this, even if you don't have an Empower yet, which you most likely don't at level 80, with a 6-link Herald of Agony, yes, you're gonna be looking at 580 DPS basically instantly. And then you also get the quiver slot on the rare bow version to get yourself big life roll, some dexterity and some attack speed. So if we're gonna compare this, like we have 2.8 attack rate here versus we had I think 2.2 on the Widow Hail version, which has a bit better sustain for virulence. Gonna see how that plays out. And then the gear is actually pretty open. You have the Salon, the same minion gems and crab helmet. And then for chest, there are quite a few options. So if you're struggling with physical, then even running Cloak of Flame plus the life mastery is decent, since it already gives you a big virus roll. Just running any rare body armor with decent armor evasion can get your evasion up quite a bit if you're running evasion flasks. So like 40% evasion is okay for some mitigation. Yeah, otherwise Lightning Coil is an option. Not too big of a fan of this. I think Cloak of Flame is just better. And then what I think is also a very cool option is the aspect of the crab chest. If you have this, you don't have to craft the crab aspect on the helmet. And you're bleed immune, you get a bit more stacks, and the chest itself is not bad. Gives you 2.5k armor, good life roll, some resistance. If you can get this with a like 5-link or something pretty early, very good. Especially together with the boots. Since you not block, you don't need the Rainbow Strides. You can run the Crab Boots, which give you a bit lowish life, but have some decent armor, has decent move speeds, and stun immunity. Very situational stun immunity. But also the only lose 5 crab barriers when you take a physical damage hit is very good on the bow setup, since this has no avoidance. If you're getting hit, you don't have the chance to block to not lose any crab barriers. So you will always lose them. This helps keep the uptime of the crab barriers a bit higher. It's pretty okay. For amulet, it's the same +1 amulet with crafted life without anything. Here I still have the Thieves Torment setup, since I think on level 80 you're not gonna have the Elrian crafts in any way, shape or form. So still running Thieves Torment here for the mana on hit, since 33 mana costs is gonna be too high, I think, to sustain with even mana on hit jewels. Yeah, I put the mana on jewels and mana on hit jewels still in here, but you can swap this to whatever. Yeah, belt, just again, life resistance. This one is pretty bad. Yeah, just a decent level 80 setup. The Rare setup, I'm gonna jump over the Sanctum setup for now. The 93 setup, I think, is what I would call the best all-rounded setup if you want to go for this one. We're talking decent investment of maybe 20 divines or something on this level. Actually, could be a bit less. Some gears a bit better, some gears a bit worse. For bow, there's a Culling Strike enchant. Costs nearly nothing on the town. It gives it just 10% more damage. And then crafting this with faceted fossils with just 1 plus gems from the faceted fossil mode. I think it's like a 1 in 3 to hit something usable. And then you need to cannot roll attack, slam +1 gems, and then multi-mod. Easy bow to craft, costs maybe 6 divines or something, depending on faceted fossil prices. But this is, with this you need an empower. But with the empower in this weapon setup, you're already talking about level 34 on the Herald of Agony, which gets you the last breakpoint, which makes this very, very strong in DPS. Yeah, quiver. Quiver, I opted for a Hunter Quiver for just the move speed. It's 10%, up to 10% move speed unconditionally, very good. Other than that, the quiver stays exactly the same. You're looking for life, you're looking for dexterity, you're looking for crafted attack speed, and for resist whatever you can get. On the helmet, same as the other endgame helmet, you're looking for +2 to minion gems for sure. That's basically mandatory. And then maybe crafted suppress or a suppress roll together with some resist and a decent life. Plus the aspect of the crab, you can get 20 or 30. 30 is from the upgraded beast. Yeah. Implicits, you're for sure looking for fist taking as anything. Even chaos is fine. And then maybe mana cost reduction could be decent. Or +1 to lightning. I think +1 is kind of weak, so mana cost reduction is fine, I think. Yeah, chest. Yeah, we're still going with the life mastery. So with this 15% if there's no life mod on the chest. Rare chest. Preferably the best base. You need a bit more stats if you want to go to best base, the A4 bases. Other than that, maybe drop 1 tier of base. High evasion, high armor. Fossil crafted maybe, and then 1 reforged fizz for the fizz damage reduction. And then craft on spell suppression. For this setup, I'm not spell suppression kept yet. This is mostly lower spell suppression rolls. And then we're going to taking the lucky spell suppress. So you don't see this in the EHP here. But yeah, I think lucky is fine. Yeah, boots. Boots have a spell suppression roll, life roll, move speed roll. This could be a bit expensive, but should be nothing too crazy. Amulet, like I said earlier, either Ashes or the Replica Dragonfang. If you can't get to 33, I think the Replica Dragonfang should still be a bit better. If you can get to 33 with the Ashes, then use the Ashes. Yeah, rings, 1 Answered Ring, since I'm running Blink Arrow in the Answered Ring here in this setup. Yeah, do some rings, some res, and craft. Belt, just a Stygian with decent life and res rolls. Yeah, pretty much same setup. Oh, I think I forgot to include the Storm Shroud here. You should be getting Storm Shroud in the setup as well. like the other setup in decent endgame, and then just run 1 or 2 shock avoid or craft it on boots. Your choice. And then we're talking Giga endgame. This is basically fully maxed out version, not really upgradable. Gemler is 39 on this version with Awakening Power 5, fully awakened gems, still have Pierce in the links, so you will always have Pierce. If you're doing only bossing, you can swap this to Withering Touch. It's or Return. I think Return should be the best. Put it here. Return should be technically the best 6 link without Pierce, but yeah, I think you're always gonna run Pierce anyways. I don't like to gem swap at all, so just gonna always run Pierce. Yeah, gem links stay the same. Gear. Yeah, we're talking +1 curse bow now, since it's a bit more expensive to craft on. And I mean, this bow, you either a shaper bow with the socketed skills deal 20% more damage, which is a lot harder to craft, or you can run a synth bow, but with the synth bow you need to be careful, it needs to be a short bow. So getting a synth bow with +1 support gems might be difficult, and is roughly, I think, 6 or 7% lower damage than this. The attack speed roll on this is completely optional, you don't need attack speed, so this doesn't matter. But yeah, other than that, this is just a fossil craft, +2 from faceted fossils, then crafted, +2 support. Yeah. For the quiver, gonna running a broaded quiver for some attack speed. +1 arrow, good for storm rain, for coverage. Yeah, attack speed, big dex roll on this, big life roll, move speeds, then crafted armor evasion, get that a bit up. Yeah, helmet. Yeah, endgame helmet, just a normal suppression helmet basically with +2 minion. And either recombine this or fracture the +2 minion. Or yeah, I think you need fracture +2 minion to really craft this yourself, because it's such low weight. So yeah. Body armor. Yeah, big armor evasion hybrid with spell suppress. Don't need T1, can be T2 spell suppress, I think. Yeah, just PDR on it. Normal, this is a normal recombine chest. Craft open suffix for craft. You can either go resists or attributes if you need it. For implicits, fist conversion for sure. Plus to always very strong. Yeah, gloves. Yeah, we saw this earlier. Only thing you can do on gloves is go essence craft them with minion damage. It's, I think, less than 1% increase this 30 minion damage. You can just forget this as well and go for any utility, or if you need to resist more, go resist. Doesn't really matter this minion damage on here. Yeah, boots. Element Avoid boots, crafted Essence Element Avoid. Since with suppression capped, we can run Ancestral Vision instead of the Storm Shroud. Makes it a bit better to cap Element Avoidance. Other than that, life, 1 resist. Onslaught on kill works because we're poisoning, and if the poison kills anything, we get onslaught, since it counts as our kill, not on the minion's kill. So just a bit more move speed from the onslaught here. You could also run the move speed if you're not hit recently, works as well. Yeah, Ashes with Inveterate Anoint. Inveterate the suppression node here to cap suppression and a bit more prevention. Damage anoints would be Grave Pact, but I don't think there is really any others, since we're gonna be capping minion accuracy with jewels on this version. I think with 1 jewel somewhere. Yeah, shouldn't be a big issue. And Inveterate is very good anoint. Yeah, rings are spicy on this one. Manifold ring is very good, 50% increased prefix modifier values, and if you go then Elder Ring, you can get life on hit and mana on hit on this ring. And you have a big value of your non-channeling mana costs, so we're gonna be pumping down the mana cost here, so we only need 1 mana on hit jewel. or maybe even none. If you get actually a 4 roll, I think you can drop the jewel completely. But yeah, this will be hard to craft. I have no idea how to craft this. Yeah, we're gonna see. This is basically endgame gear. I don't know. And yeah, one unset ring still running blink arrow in the unset ring. Yeah, can be eldering if you want to get another 24 life per hit, and then maybe run a different support gem on your storm rain, or just for more life on it. Or you can use a normal ring here, just fix your dexterity maybe or strength if you need anything of those. Yeah, clusters. Yeah, fully endgame. Gonna be swapping to 3 passive voices, of course, from 5. The mediums stay actually the same. You still pick only one notable, but you want some stuff on the added small here of your life and all attributes, which gives you a bit more flexibility on gear. You can also go for minion attack speed maybe. It's a bit more damage. But yeah. Still have the Forbidden Flesh for unnatural strength. Still have 1 enduring composure cluster to sustain endurances. And currently I've dropped 1 endurance charge here. You could maybe grab this if you drop something else. If you can figure out the suppression without a small cluster. I've got 1 suppression small cluster here. Yeah. Other than that, nothing too spicy. The jewels is still an adorned setup in Ultra Endgame. So with the adorned for Ghastly's life and poison chance, like we mentioned earlier. Life and accuracy on 1 to cap your minion accuracy. And then if you have anything else free, you can go life and max res. For cold, 1 cold would maybe not be bad on max res. Or life and attack speed if you want to shoot a bit faster. Yeah, going maybe 2 max res jewels here, and then capping all of your max resists would be a good option as well. Oh yeah, and Ultra Endgame, you're of course talking Mage Blood. Your unique class is gonna be Progenesis for sure. And then Quicksilver, move speed. Then triple Ellie Flask. To cap your max res. There is probably a way to play with melding, since you have quite a lot of affixes open you can use for resists. You play melding, single flask with probably fire resistance, and then play silver flask plus like granite or something to get a bit more armor evasion. But this looks alright. If you are on the Mage Blood stage, you can figure out whatever you want to do as well yourself. Yeah, I think this was everything for the end game, or for all of the build overviews. Let's talk maybe quickly about the leveling. To really start using Herald of Agony as your leveling skill, you need to basically have done the normal lab, since you need the gem, which you can't get on Witch except for library. So if you buy it on library, you need to level it a bit, otherwise you're gonna be doing no damage. And up until that point, you can run SRS with a tree like this. This would be, since you're grabbing minion duration, like, and some minion damage from start, then grabbing minion attack speed here, then maybe pathing instantly toward this one. This should be fine to get until first lab. Personally, I think I will be swapping when my Herald of Agony gem has caught up to my level, and when I get either a Widow Hail with a rear guard or a Quill Rain. Probably a Quill Rain, otherwise you can't really sustain the mana on hit without any mana sustain. So if you have those things, you can swap to HoAG. Yeah, Cruel Lab, I've gotten instantly puffed down basically. This is all of the damage nodes you will need. Then puff down towards RT. This one is very important if you want to run HoAG. And then yeah, Soul of Steel, early armor, very good. Yeah. And then for Merc Lab, you're basically filling out the top set a little bit. I've put all 3 of the dex nodes in this POB as well. So like 71 with all dex nodes spec'd. Should give you enough to play around with gear. Basically, we have all of the attributes we need with only 3 items equipped. And this is even without the high respite, which I would recommend to go early. As for Golden Rule early on, you're not gonna need it before Merc Lab at all. Like I saw in my test, you will have enough stacks. After Merc Lab, I have no idea. I think you could still sustain it, but you could run it. You will be chaos capped if you have the 100 poisons on you. So like I see here, you're 23 baseline. If you have the 100 poison, you're way overcapped. So it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, just grab Merc Lab top side, +1 curse, and then should be fine. I have one more heist setup that has no loadout here. I'm not quite sure yet when I'm gonna start heisting. I think maybe after I can buy the Widow Hail plus a rear guard. I'm gonna be spam heisting, as you can see, with only Rainbow Strides, Widow Hail, rear guard, and nothing for block on 3. We're looking at 72 attack block, 65 spell block, and 2.6k armor without any armor equipped. So if you get yourself some armor bases or whatever, maybe a granite from somewhere, you're gonna be looking at 4k armor, 3k, 4k armor in at level, I don't know, 60 or something when you're heisting. Should be enough to survive heist and still have some damage, of course, to level in heist. But yeah. This is the only stage where the build, I think, will be a bit slow, but should be okay. Alright, I think that was everything. Yeah, if you have any questions until tomorrow for Leaguestart, leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer as good as I can. If there are some issues in the POB with like 1 or 2 points, or I forgot to put the storm shot in one of the setups, feel free to adjust yourself. It shouldn't be like a fully handheld guide, but more of a guideline what you can do. HoAG in general is very, very open to play. As you saw, I only showed you 2 bow setups. You can play spells as well. I have an endgame setup for that as well, but that's something for a bit later in the league maybe. But yeah, I think this should be alright as Leaguestart. I hope so. I'm gonna play it. So if you want to follow me, Nerotox _ I don't know, whatever it's gonna be, you should be able to find me on the PoE Ninja ladder on day 1 or 2 to see what I'm running. So yeah, hopefully you guys have a good event start, I guess, since it's not a league. And yeah, have a good one. See ya.